לכו ונשובה אל אדוני, לכו ונשובה אל אדוני, לכו ונשובה אל אדוני, לכו ונשובה אל אדוני.
I got a cold. Listen, I know. I just got it. I got a cold, so nobody wants to greet me. Trust me. But watch this, a good Hebrew group or a good Jewish group right at the wall. I got the crud. It lapped around to me. It's just a cold. Isn't that great?
יש נהר שזורם מכיסו, נשמחה ונגילה בו. הצמא יבוא וישתה מים בשפע, מי שישמע יבוא וידע מים חיים חינם, מים חיים חינם. כמה יקר חסדך, אלוהי מוצאך יפתחו בך. אדוני ונהרות יפרצו מתוכם, כי אין מחסור לרעב. כמה יקר חסדך, אלוהי מוצאך יפתחו בך. אדוני
You do,
ונהרות
actually.
יפרצו מתוכם,
Here, maybe twice.
כי אין מחסור לרעב.
Sarah Lieberman. Who's Sarah? Good evening, everybody. Good evening to Lake Elminor as people come continue to pour in, and those online, which I've heard from people in multiple states that are watching this evening. Welcome to Israel 2020. And you are going to be blessed big time, not only by what I have to share from slides, but what you're going to hear from people who have actually been there. So first of all, raise your hand if you were on the trip with me. Look around you. I just want you to see these people right there, okay? I'm not expecting only me to talk, but them. So I've got good news and bad news. So first of all, I got bad news. Don't get near me. I avoided the cold, and somehow it came right at the end. So I got it. Good to see you. So good news and bad news. Good news is, let's see. Let me see the slides, Stephen. That's a great song, by the way. How do I do it? Okay, there's that. So the good news is you're going to get a lot of highlights. You're going to get so many highlights.
How many highlights are we getting?
This might just be part one. Okay. I'm just telling you, it might be part one. What's that? Why not take her here for her birthday? We'll have a Jewish cake, okay? We can turn on the music. So I love this too because it's so informal, just to be able to be out in here. So got a couple things for you to bless you. But so on the one hand, I'm going to take my time through this. Let me back up. I'm not going to totally take my time through it, through the slides. I was preparing for a class that I was going to do on Sundays that was going to go through it like molasses and take me like 3 years. And actually, the elders and I met yesterday, and we realized I was putting too much on my plate. Have you ever done that? So this is going to be, what am I doing? I'm just hitting up. This is why he operates it. Okay, next one. But wait a minute, so can I just hit the arrow up? So.
The arrow up goes the other direction. Arrow down.
Oh, arrow down. Okay, arrow down. My grandkids are here. How you guys doing? Luca and Tobias. So the tough news is, so on Sunday, my load was just getting a little bit too big throughout every week, and so I probably got a little sick. So I'm gonna be just focusing on the church services on Sunday morning. So that's why I'm making this into part 2. And I want you to hear from the people who were there. So here's how I decided to do it. First, I was sitting there going, I'm going to make it all about what they've experienced, to hear their highlights at a spot. And then I thought, well, no, people kind of want to see where we've gone and what we've done, right? And then I go, well, then I've got so many slides, I can only do that. And then I'm going to have their testimonies. I go, no. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go through location by location, show you and tell you some fun facts. And then I want to see if they have anything to add. Okay, if they have anything to add. Now, especially, I'm asking you, those of you who came, that the places that rocked your world, I want to hear about it. So, as a matter of fact, so do a lot of people online. So, there is going to be this mic, which I need to have somebody responsible for being Phil Donahue. Can anybody be that? Anybody remember Phil Donahue? Am I totally dating myself? Tate, let's hear it for Tate. He was on the trip. So, remember this too, I'm piling this together for my lineage and family, so you're going to see a few more of my family pictures than me worrying about all of you popping up, but you'll see all of you. So here's first blessing that comes down. I want to thank Talar for taking a lot of pictures that I used, and I grabbed what I could off of line. We've only been back a week, so it's pretty miracle that I've even got this together. And then for Rich and Turi, for putting together a map, and on the right side, every location that we hit on that map. Let's hear it for that. So, but just to add to that, I took my map and his 18, and mine has the Golan Heights and the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, where you can see that. They're marked with this, but I added one, Rich. When you hit Jerusalem and you got numbers 20 to 28, I got an old picture of Jerusalem and marked 20 to 28. So is that nice or what? Yeah. So I need somebody to help me hand these out. Now listen, I've only got like 30 of those. So if you're a couple, just take one. Okay, we should be able to get around, but you get one of each of these things. So I just want to say there was a gentleman and his beloved wife, Catherine, is here that was not able to make it on the trip, Russ and Catherine, and so I want to dedicate this entire presentation to him and to her because they should have been on the trip together. And that's Marty and Ken, Marty, his sister, and just so glad you guys are here. So, for us. For the whole thing. So I'm going to jump right into it. Are you ready? And we're just going to see how long we can get, and we'll see if we have part 2, but I almost guarantee you we will. All right? So let me tell you, as you look at this map, you're going to see the numbers correspond in the corner with the number on the map so you can trace exactly where we went. We went to places that a lot of people don't normally go to because we had a great historian and archaeologist and scholar with us that took us to locations off the beaten path. It wasn't a typical tour. This was a Bible study in every bit of the words. So when you see the number on there, the number will correspond on there and in the corner, and it starts right here. We flew into Tel Aviv, Israel. That was number 1. Anything exciting about the airport? No, you were tired. Not that one. You're thinking of Turkey, huh? But we ended up, after staying at a nice place, too bad. Did you know that Tel Aviv beaches are among the top 10 beaches according to National Geographic in the world? I'm going to give you a lot of fun facts. They weren't that night because it was a lot of wind and rain, wasn't it? You were going to go out and swim that
I
night.
actually got ready to go, and the guy goes, I wouldn't do it.
We would have lost Ray right in between it. So anyway, so our first stop was in Caesarea. What can anybody tell me about Caesarea right off the top of your mind? What? Caesarea Maritima is the part of Caesarea that's by the harbor, and it's what? Who built it? Ben-Hur chariot races. I'll show you pictures. Herod the Great established there. It was one of the biggest, most popular connections to Europe as a Roman place, actually, Roman city. It looks, the remains of it are incredible. I'll show you a depiction of what it looked like at the end of it. But this is just a few of the slides, which now my arrow's not working, Stephen. I'm pressing down. I hate electronics. Oh, did it go? Okay. Did it? Come on, man. Can you fix the battery? So, can you back up one? Back up to right after where it was at. So this is where we just first entered in. This is Omer Eshen. Honestly, incredible Hebrew scholar in a number of different ways, and I'll show that. Next slide. That's why I need the cursor. So this is the amphitheater, one of the amphitheaters that are there. Next slide. I just want to show you how big this place is. This entire harbor, Caesarea actually extended out quite some ways. But this little part right here was a palace. It ended up being a palace for Pilate. That was a big old harbor up on top. Go ahead, go to the next frame. So, see what it looked like back in the day? You can still see, and a freshwater swimming pool, which you'll see that in a second. So back in the day, this was an incredible place. It was big to Christianity because God was trying to get the gospel beyond just the Jews. And he used in Acts chapter 10 and Cornelius and then Peter with the blanket that fell out of heaven with all of the unclean animals to try to get this dream across that you guys are supposed to take this gospel to the utter ends of the earth. And this was the place to do it by. So Paul's missionary journeys, he took off from here. Caesarea Maritima is the America of Israel. Just want you to know. That was the launching point for Gentile ministries. That's what you need to know. Is it working? You're a kind soul. And you got a good biblical name, too. That's incredible. So you can actually see down in the water from up above. I had a drone. They didn't see this, so I was using the drone. And you can actually see those are archaeological remains underneath the water right there of what used to be. Pretty incredible, isn't it, that it's lasted throughout all this time? So look at this harbor. What's that? Yeah, it's on the Mediterranean, of course, yes. So look at what this was like, and a temple of Augustus, and they showed us, I'll show you the steps that were leading up to that. But this place was massive, and the Roman theater. And you saw Randy's Ben-Hur. Where was that at, Randy? That was actually, are you? See right there, to the left? Yeah, I know, I was intentionally going back. So see the old, Ben-Hur races, for those of you who remember the movie. So let me bounce forward. Here's that amphitheater right here. And I think we take a nice picture. Isn't this a great-looking crew? Or what? Look at them all. So 55 people, about 15 from Texas, and the rest were us. Those are our two guides, by the way. Omer is over there on the left, and David Barton is second from the right. Right there. So here's when you go down by when he said a freshwater pool. So watch this. As you go down here, by the way, by this first little outlet, I'm hitting the arrow, Stephen. Really. You know, it'll go to show you work can work for 50 hours on a presentation. Your life comes down to this little battery. I don't, and then you have a guy up in front. Okay, bounce again. I'm going to try. So see this little inscription right there? Anybody remember whose name is on it? It was Pilate. Pilate, the one who oversaw the trial of Jesus. I've been looking at this for 25 years, and I've been looking at this and use it as a point of apologetics and defense of the faith because we didn't know a lot about Pilate decades ago, and then they found this inscription, and that was his place in addition to it. So I walked up to this stone, and whenever they saw me going like this, oh, that's nice. That's a good boy, you know. I go, so I just had a little moment touching that stone. So out here at the end of the pier, it's not going, Stephen. Next. Okay, so right at the end, this was down here, was a freshwater pool. So the question is, how did they get fresh water down to a saltwater place? How'd they do it? Aqueducts. Guess what? I mean, can you imagine this? There were so many aqueducts. Free, right here. I'm trying, Stephen. Oh, it's not working. Oh, that's the Ben-Hur right there. Keep going. But did you skip the part with the aqueducts? There it is, right there. These were all the aqueducts that the Romans built. Picture this. So that aqueduct coming down to Caesarea came down from Mount Carmel. What is it? 15 miles up. They built an aqueduct to just get fresh water down there. And why did they do it? Because they could. Because when you're Herod the Great, you can do whatever you want. So this is Caesarea Maritima. I have a little bit more than usual on these slides than I do on others. These are those steps that would have been at the end of the harbor that led up to the Temple of Augustus. Oh, and by the way, you are going to see more cats in these pictures. For all you cat lovers, this was a curse. No, it wasn't to me. Anyway, cats, they're everywhere. All over Israel, there's just cats.
And was a cat in the luggage area. I was like, yeah.
And they all loved Todd.
And they all loved me.
The saying over there is you either like cats or you like mice.
Yeah.
Because that's what they use for rodent control.
Whatever. I'm trying to click down, Stephen. So let's get to the end of this, and then I want to hear. So stop. Caesarea Maritima. Anything that anybody has to add to that? That was the first location that we hit at. Nothing? Didn't rock anybody's world?
Oh, yeah, just the awe of being there.
The awe of just being there, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Here's the place where Gentile Christianity launched, right here.
Yeah, it was.
What did you want to add, Rich?
I was thinking at that point it's going to be hard to beat that.
I know. Yeah.
There's going to be people online, Tate. You got to walk around with the mic. So get over here. So you got to raise your hand because he's going to run to you. You're going to be running on because otherwise I'm going to start getting little text notes from everybody watching. We can't hear. So. It's not on. It's not on.
Now I've forgotten.
There we go.
I just wanted to add how amazing it was that, for example, the stone with the inscriptions. I guess this will be the last time I speak tonight.
Wow. Listen, you shouldn't have them. They'll never stand up if you're going to zoom in on them. Sorry, Susie.
Okay, everywhere we went, there were these amazing artifacts that you could walk up and touch. It wasn't like going into a museum and seeing something behind glass where you couldn't get too close. It's like that stone where you saw Omer with his hand upon it. An inscription about Pontius Pilate, and that blew my mind because here in our country, we look at something that's a couple of 100 years old and we think, oh my gosh, this is ancient, don't touch it, you might mess it up. You could be driving down the road and there's archaeological sites everywhere you look, and you can just go up and feel it with your hands and it's real.
It's really unfair, if you want to be honest, because you can give biblical history by just walking out your back door. I told that to Omer. I go, yeah, it's kind of not fair for us. In California, we got nothing. Some missions. The gold rush. You know, it's crazy to see how much archaeological finds there are. So this is the look inside of our bus. Good people. It was just even fun driving in the bus. So we went from Caesarea and Caesarea Maritima on the coast, and we went next to Megiddo. Why is Megiddo important? Anybody? Armageddon, last battle, which is in what chapter of Revelation? Revelation chapter 16. And so that's why I say this was a Bible study. It wasn't a typical tour. So Megiddo, Tar Megiddo, is a mountaintop, and here's a little look of it. Oh yeah, there's a motley crew. That's the hilltop there. You can see it in the one picture, and then we're on top up there, and this is the will gather here at the very end. And when you stand there and look at this, and you think about all of the crazy nation conflicts, and you're going, 2,000 years ago, it was predicted the last battle would be right there. You just got to go a crow's fly up to be in Syria, where how many nations are battling in Syria? Syria, Iraq, Russia, United States, Turkey. I'm saying this is just a stone's throw down. And then you have every Muslim nation around. Who could guess? Who could guess this? If it was anywhere else on the planet, you'd be wrong. Anybody knows it's just a volatile cocktail that could launch this into oblivion. And so, any thoughts on the Battle of Armageddon? Or the Valley of Megiddo? This, by the way, are some of the archaeological finds walking up the hill right here. They had a sacred area. By the way, whenever you see like the word Tel Dan or Tel Megiddo, it's referring to a mountain on which there have been layers upon layers of archaeological finds. And what this sign shows is those type of discoveries that have been made generation after generation. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Omer said that he farmed down in the valley down there, and he got his tractor stuck. And one of the things is that it's really clay, and in some of the battles that they've had in history, they would take their chariots down there and get them stuck. They would take their tanks down there and get them stuck. So while it's a beautiful valley, there is some strategic logistics that the enemies have to overcome.
See, it's jarring their memory just being here. And we've only get to the second location. These are some of the archaeological stuff. So, any other thoughts on Megiddo? Yes, ma'am.
Something to add to what Susie said something that just blew me away is that as you're walking around looking at
Mike.
As you're walking around looking at these ruins, you are walking on tile work. That is something you would pay millions for in a home now that possibly Jesus walked on. And you just get to walk on it. And we're talking intricate tile mosaic sidewalks. And you get to walk on them.
You're about to see this, right?
Well, it's everywhere. That was my favorite thing.
You're about to see this right now at Sepphoris. So Sepphoris was the third location. Somebody tell me about Sepphoris. This is a test for those who went and learned. So I just want to show you how smart they are. Yes, ma'am.
The other word for that is Zippori. It's where
Zippori, correct.
where Jesus' mother was born and her family lived, and Jesus was raised in Nazareth, which was approximately a mile walk away from Zippori. And so Jesus' grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles would have been there, and Joseph would have brought Jesus into town with him to work, and it's where Jesus would have played, and his feet touched that ground. His hands touched those walls. And it was a city also that was Jews and non-Jews. And so more pagan activities took place there also. And so it's a place where Jesus would have been able to learn, and he would be able to absorb that to use in his parables later on.
Well, that was pretty good. And you hit it right, except only one detail. It was about 4 miles away, Nazareth, 3 to 4 miles, but everything else was spot on. Did he? He was wrong. So I'll prove it. And they had them all. So here's what you need to know, what she just said. Exactly. This was a very large city, about 15 to 20,000. And in proximity to, there it is. It's about 3 miles from Nazareth. You can trust me. But there's Nazareth up on the hill, and actually it drops down the other side. But this is how far he would have moved away. Archaeologists estimate there would be about 50 families that lived in Nazareth at the time. And so it was a small podunk enclave onto a hillside. They actually have done a little bit. People said, why didn't you go there? You have to basically go underground to find anything. Here's something new. This is, they say, as Jesus' Nazareth hath been found, but these houses go back that they've dug out of the hillside that go back to Jesus' time. Just some really exciting discoveries. So those 50 people, though, compare that, or 50 families, to 15 to 20,000 people in Sepphoris or Zippori. I go, that's enormous. I mean, that's an enormous difference. And so if Jesus would have gone off to work, if Joseph would have gone off to work, if others would have gone off to work, where would they have gone? There was nothing to work on in Nazareth. They would have gone to the neighboring city. That's what made this so big, as she pointed out. So, and when they mentioned the textile work, they've recently done excavations on the lower part of the city, and about 4 feet down, this is the original sidewalk that his family would have walked on. I shared with you on Sunday, this is one of the moments that rocked my world, because all of a sudden Jesus had grandparents, and he had uncles and aunts, and odds are they would have been there. Yes, sir.
What?
Blame Tracy on that standing thing.
What? Hi, Tracy.
Wow.
One of the things that really caught my mind was that I'm a carpenter, and I've always heard Jesus was a carpenter. And it was pointed out to me that there wasn't any wood back there, so Jesus probably wasn't a carpenter. He was more like a stonemason. So I was like, oh.
Yeah. But you would have been a stonemason back then, right? And that's absolutely true. I mean, they would have done textile work. Look at these. I mean, you walk up to these sidewalks, and they're beautiful. His family could have laid this stuff down. They certainly walked on it. And that was just a mind blower to me. So here's a few other pictures of it as just gathering around. Look at how large it was, 15 to 20,000 people. If you go on top of what's called the upper city, more excavations. We walked up the road there. There's good old Faye. And up at the top, what was the building structure here? Yeah, it was a wealthy home. I know it wasn't. You're going to see synagogues. You're going to see really old synagogues, but it wasn't here. Wealthy home? Was that right? What? Yeah. And what? Yeah, and a mall. And I mean, this flooring it's just incredible. Absolutely. Look at this. And the yeah. You don't really see the color here, but it's really vibrant. So, got a couple looks at that.
Todd?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. So if you go back to the mosaics, each one told a story. It was a story based on that family. The heritage was all written down by mosaics.
He was listening. See, Mom? He was listening.
It was amazing to see each mosaic, because each place had its own mosaics.
Yeah.
And each one told the story of that resident or family member or their political party or whatever they had going on is all there. So it was just fascinating to see the history of it.
Good word, Tate. So down around the corner here, there was more excavation work being done. They had ritual baths and others there, and then you circle around the corner, you get another big old amphitheater that was down there, and another. What's that?
What were the actual baths called? I can't remember the name of it.
What was the name of the baths? Mikvah, right? Yeah. See, everybody was learning. Say again?
That amphitheater
Yeah.
was taller than that, but this is where they have excavated. And
Yeah. This is just where they had excavated. They estimate, I was reading in some literature that I bought from the place, tried to buy stuff at every place, that it could hold up to 4,000 people. And you look at it and you go, how? But it was much bigger than that. Anything else on Sepphoris? Is Sepphoris mentioned in the Bible? Nope. But it's a major city right next door that they would have had a lot of commerce and other things to deal with. Are you excited yet? Yes. So we went from there. Remember, we're just a stone's throw to Nazareth. So see Sepphoris right above that. And we went to the Mount of Precipice. Somebody tell me about the Mount of Precipice. So here's Nazareth from the Mount of Precipice. And here's the view that you see there. What happened on the Mount of Precipice?
They were going to throw Jesus off the cliff.
Do you remember the account where they were going to throw Jesus off the cliff? That's how much they loved him in his hometown, right? What good can come out of Nazareth, right? Yeah. My wife's technical about things. So I actually think, too, I have no proof for this whatsoever, but it was Jesus' custom to often go up on a hillside to pray. And I could totally picture him being, raised in that area and going off on this mountain to pray. Can't you? Yeah. Susie over there, hold on 1 second. Just want to be kind to the people online. Hi, everybody, by the way.
So if Jesus was up there praying, what you're overlooking is back to Megiddo. So I just wonder if he was thinking about the future and Armageddon and everything that's going to transpire in that very location. So that's what you're looking at down below.
Yeah.
It's Megiddo.
The whole Megiddo and the Jezreel Valley laps around this whole area. And Omer went and just started pointing at hillsides of all the battles and all the biblical stories. He just went in a circle. And I think exactly what she said. He was praying up there. And imagine when he prayed looking over the world. I mean, he lamented over Jerusalem. Imagine what he saw when he looked over this. So I almost felt like there was more evidence for him going up there to pray than being thrown off of the thing. So here's Omer teaching from up there, doing his biblical roundabout. Beautiful shot of the sun. There's the crew. And by the way, you see those coats? It was clear, but it was cold. and windy. Any other thoughts about the Mount of Precipice? Yes, right down here. Thank you, Tate, for being Phil Donahue.
When you look at this stuff from TV or any of the videos or documentaries, especially when you're looking on the news, you see it. You're always seeing the desert. You're always seeing like this Aladdin Sahara desert-looking place. When I was driving through here and even seeing from the Mount of Precipice, most of the areas that we saw were completely green. It was like shepherd's land, and it just like in some parts even looked like Ireland, just with the fog, and it was amazing how much life there actually was. Because in some parts you're looking and you're thinking, why did so many people battle over this? Like, I don't want it. Like, why would you want this land? You can go over there and you got beach property. And the truth is, like, when you're looking throughout this entire nation, it was gorgeous. And you start to see, you're going, okay, this is why they cherished it so much. And so that was a really big, cool part that you could see how, and also the distance, how connected all of these towns were. Because you're thinking in the Bible, when you think, oh, they traveled, they journeyed over to this land or to this land, and you're thinking, okay, man, they're taking like weeks or days. And it's like, no, that was a 5-minute drive. Just, it was
with
nothing.
a chariot.
Yeah, in a chariot, 5-minute drive. So it was truly, that in particular was a remarkable place, because Omer even said you could see darn near half of the cities from the Bible, from the Old Testament, straight from that view.
What did it look like before the Israelites moved back?
Repeat her question.
She said, what did it look like before the Israelites moved back? And yeah, they was before they came back to start to reinvigorate the land.
1948.
In 1948, even Omer brought up the fact that Mark Twain once toured Israel, and he referenced about how desolate it was and how just barren it was. And he says there is nothing here that would be appealing to the certain places that he visited. So they have gone through major efforts to just bring the greenness and the life and the enrichment back into the soil, and you see it everywhere you go.
And the Israelite people feel that there is a spiritual significance to that when they came back, when it wasn't just a matter of agriculture, but that literally they were a part of their land. What he mentioned was great to think about, because a lot of people don't. 71 miles wide, basically 263 miles long. That's Israel. When I described to my class about why it was so appealing in ancient times, this is what you can think of. Think of California being California, and now think of the entire rest of the United States being desert. Where do you want to live? That's basically what's there, because from the Jordan over, in Jordan, and then Iraq and all that, it's all desert. It's all desert. So this was the only land that connected 3 continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. Everybody wanted it. It was a passageway. I loved what Jesse said to me at one time. He goes, but it's not a passageway now, Dad, anymore. People can fly over it, so what the heck? But it just goes to show you how much spiritual significance it got. 71 miles wide, 9 miles at its narrowest point, the state is, from the West Bank over to the coast. I mean, or 9 miles, 9 miles over. I mean, such a small slit of land, and yet the most contested land on the planet. So, from the Mount of Precipice, we went to our hotels, and man, we were staying in some real shoddy places. Just kidding. So, he had some connection on the Sea of Galilee that was just, we all walked in and we're like, wow. So, and my sister who's watching, hi sis, she came up to me, she goes, you know how much this place is a night? And I'm like, how much? Because I know you looked, And she goes, I just went online, it was $1,400 a night. So for that night, if you came in to that. That was cheap seats, yeah. So it was just Omer's connection. He knows people all over Israel. Yes, sir.
You might want to explain the A, B, and C sites.
You want to try? Okay, I'll fill in whatever you don't. So when he says A, B, and C sites, go ahead.
So one of the important things that Omer explained to us when we first got there was that we're going to go to there's so many places they could go to, but he was going to concentrate because this was a study of making sure that we see mostly A sites. And an A site would be a place where there's archaeological facts that would make sure that Jesus or an event actually happened. It would be maybe it was rumored that it could have happened, or might be one or two different places that it could have happened in the Bible or in the Old Testament. And then a C site might have been some place where a church or religion might have thought that event might have taken place. So there wasn't any factual evidence to back it up, but it was important that to explain that, because most of these places that we actually went to were actual A sites.
That's a great point to make. All I would add to that is in a B site, they say, we don't know maybe the exact location, but it's somewhere in this vicinity, and there's strong tradition. In C, it's virtually just tradition. So the great thing about traveling with Omer, who's been on how many? 215 of 216 archaeological sites. This guy, let me just say this. He was the head of the staff at the Qumran National Park, where they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. He was head of the staff of the Megiddo National Park. He helped, anybody been to the Bible Museum in Washington, D.C.? He trained their staff. So, ours and theirs. And the Bible Land Museum by the Israeli Museum, which we'll see, he actually helped to write out many of their descriptions. So if you know the archaeology, the great thing about that is you've got to know the history, you've got to know everything around it. So I'm hoping in particular, those of you who weren't with us, that you're just starting to get that you're getting a good taste of this. So I didn't mean to make this a big deal that we were staying at a nice place, but it was a big deal. How often do you stay at $1,400 places? So how about this? Omer actually took the shot. He was down by the pool, and I go, nice shot, Omer, and asked him to send it to me. So we went from there up to Gamla. Gamla is up in the Golan Heights, and this is the next morning. Thank you. Yes, the next morning, and I think there's even dates on there that shows. So it's number 7 in that. Somebody tell me about Gamla. What do you know? Original what?
It's like the original Masada.
The original Masada. What do you mean by that? I know what you mean, but
Gemla was like 78 years before Masada, and Gemla was a civilization or a city built on a hill similar to Masada, and it about 78 years, I believe, before Masada was taken down. Gemla was taken down much the same way. They had all sorts of protections built in so that they couldn't be taken, but they did get taken. And Masada was built and remembered what happened at Gemla and patterned after them.
it was remember the Alamo to Masada, which I'll talk about down the line. That was the real
And if I could follow up on what Kim said about Gamla and Masada, the reason that they built these cities were because they knew that they were going to be sieged by the Romans. So they strategically built these cities, and I'm sure we're going to see some photos so that they could fend off the attacks when the Romans were going to come and try to conquer them. So they were strategic sites, and you'll hear the story here, I'm sure, of.
Perfect. You guys are filling in great. This is just what I wanted too. Give the man one more down here.
I just wanted to add to that one of the most impressive things there was they built their houses on the side of a hill so that when they were attacked, they could knock down one of them and all of them tumble down on the attacking soldiers. And that was their last line of defense. And at the end of the battle, 6,000 Jews jumped off the cliff to their death because they didn't want to become prostituted or slaves to the Romans.
So, here's one other thing to add with Gamla. Remember when Jesus said, you were talking about 33 AD, 37 AD, depending upon how you date his life. near the end of his life, he talked about the temple, that the temple would be destroyed and not one stone, would be left, correct? The Romans came in at AD 66, and they started in Caesarea Maritima. They started there on the coast, and they sacked the city. They just clobbered it, and they went around to Israel. They came across into Galilee, and they came up to Gamla. Gamla was up on this hill overseeing. We're on our way driving up. That's the Sea of Galilee, so we're north of that. And here's Gamla, which is on this hillside, and there's the Sea of Galilee up there. Great thing about this, well, so the people from Galilee would retreat to up here. So when the Romans basically had this thing circled, 4,000 to 6,000 people jumped off the edge, as Ray said. They would rather end their life than be enslaved to Romans. When you get a little closer to here, the one thing that, here's Omer talking about the site. This is it. This hillside is what he was talking about when he said the dwelling places were on there, and they collapsed the houses to fall down upon the Romans. Anybody remember what this little complex is down there? Synagogue. It is the oldest synagogue in the world. And the great thing about this is probably, we don't have any record of it, but it's just miles away from Galilee. Jesus would have gone when he was teaching at synagogues. He would have gone there because there's many different, by the way, I ran down the hill and took this picture. They're looking. We didn't get to go that close. I took Tate. I'm like, Tate, run down, take a picture. But this is a closer view, of what the remains of the synagogue, which, for that time was significantly large. That's just amazing to think about it. Thousands of people up there. Jesus was just a stone's throw away. Does anybody not think he would have made a round up there to teach? He often went he was based in Capernaum, which was right down the road.
A little bit of a geographically where we're at.
Yeah.
When we were driving up there.
The back of that, right? This one? Right there?
Well, we virtually went up to the border of Lebanon.
Oh, yeah.
Right to the border of Syria.
Yeah. So, a quick little story on this. Yeah. So, when you're going up north, if I'm looking this way, the Golan Heights are up there, which is a contested area, but it's Israel's area. And right to the right of it is Syria. And so you've got, ISIS over there. You've got Lebanon up on the and Hezbollah, which is, an Iran proxy up on the left. So here's the fun story. We're going up there, and all of a sudden we're going left a long time. Well, Omer and Barton and the bus driver are just yakking away. And I'm like, I know this area, pretty good in my brain. I'm like, holy cow, we've been on this road for a while. It doesn't take long before you're out of the area. And I'm like, hey, are we heading into Syria? And all of a sudden, Omer's all, what is it? What? What? Yeah, he's all, hey, turn around. Turn around. I'm like, holy cow, we almost encountered ISIS, What's wrong with this picture? The other time, which was fun looking at these guys, and we have several retired law enforcement on there. Jeremy Duvall, who I know is watching this, detective in the area. Dave, CHP, Eric Schmidt, probably be watching up there, and these guys what? Oh, yeah. So these guys who, quite frankly, are protecting us all the time, which you know what that means, right? Yeah. So they're well, established and defended. So when we're on these borders of Lebanon and Syria, I just had to walk back at the back of the bus at one point. And I walked back and I just looked at him. I go, because Omer's saying, right there, see the fencing? Right there? We're right at the edge. I'm like, Hezbollah lives right on the other side, And I walk back there. They're all pale. No, they weren't. I looked at them and I go, how you guys feeling not packing? They're like, Yeah, and Dave said he had a sewing kit. He could poke people with his needle.
Well, Omer said also that if we went that direction, we
That was just kind of, I wanted to say once they turned around, I wanted to say, keep your eyes on the road, fellas. You know? So that was Gamla. There, I could put one in there for you, Tate. Tate and David Barton. That's a nice picture, actually, Tate. What's that?
It was a half a day's walk from Capernaum
Yeah.
through that valley to Gemla.
The people listening, why they were correct. So keeping that in mind when we go to part 2, it was really fascinating that that's what we got to experience in Capernaum on the Sabbath,
In Capernaum.
in the synagogue in Capernaum.
So let me just tell you for those who weren't there. Omer, we had David Barton, who's one of the most active evangelicals on the planet in the United States. He does more than anybody you could possibly imagine to fight for causes of conservative evangelicalism. And so what you want to learn more about him, wallbuilders.com. This week is celebrating George Washington. You want to love to get his book called The Bulletproof George Washington. Amazing. That's Barton. So a first-rate historian. But what happened 2 days before, Omer is 100% Jew, 100%. And so I knew this walking in, but I decided to just not make it a point and see how he handled himself, because he's a first-rate scholar. And so our people, being the inquisitive people that we are, some people picked up because very few people have the reverence for Jesus that he did. Would you agree with me about that? Pretty amazing. I would even wish that most Christians had the type of reverence for him. But he does not believe he's the Messiah or God in human flesh. And so this came out by a couple people asking him, and I was standing there 2 days before, I don't know, it might have been over at Caesarea Maritima, and he looked at me, and I could tell, you know when somebody in your same field is looking at you and they just look in their eyes, and I'm like, and he goes, well, you know that Jesus never himself claimed to be God. And I go, I beg to differ. And I knew he was a good Jew and he loved debate. And he smiled. He goes, really? I go, oh, yeah, brother, we need to talk, you know. And he said, he goes, we do. And I was absolutely praying about it. I thought we would walk away on the sea of the shore of Sea of Galilee, and he and I would walk down the road. And honestly, I would have gone to task with him. I mean, right? Just, listen to me. I don't care about just winning a debate. I don't need to be right. Right, Tracy?
Give her the mic.
No. Nice, David. By the way, we'll take a stretch in about 2 minutes before our second part of this. So I was looking for this, and here we are sitting in the synagogue on the Sabbath day in Capernaum, and I'm having my own little, euphoric moments of looking around, just going, wow, this is crazy, And all of a sudden he starts talking. And then a lady chimes up, and I tell her she's all to blame for this. So actually, Leslie, you could take this as the best credit for your life. She goes, I'm so proud of this. She's like, so, because he's talking about Jesus, and he's just venerating him, and he's talking about what he did and his great works and his miracles, and she's all, so you believe, I don't remember the exact question you said. What is it?
This is what I remember. I asked him, this is kind of a personal question. I don't know if this is the time to ask or anything. And he kind of said, no, this is. And I said, well, what are you? I was torn between, was he a Christian? Is he Jewish? Is he, I couldn't figure it out from everything that he was saying. So.
And you said something like, you go, so what do you believe about Jesus?
Yeah, yeah.
And I watched that.
Because I couldn't tell, like, does he believe he is our Savior, or what does he think he is?
So then she asked, and he responded, as he did. He's very honest, not sheepish about it, and I believe this, and I'm like, And then I think it was Kelly Cote who chimed up something else. She goes, whoa, wait a minute. And I go, oh my gosh, here we go. And I thought, and I tell you what I honestly felt. I go, our people are getting confused. And I go, And I could feel it inside. I go, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this here. And I was very concerned because I did not want to disrespect the man. I actually asked Barton the day before. I said, so this is what Omer said to me. I go, am I crossing any lines by? He goes, oh, no, you just need to talk to him. He'll love that. I go, well, good, because I was certain he's never been given the evidence in his life, absolutely, that Jesus is God in human flesh. So he turned to me at this one point after he said a few, and he looked over and was sitting right about here, and he goes, Todd, would you like to say anything? And I go, as a matter of fact, I would. And honestly, I don't know if I could even repeat what I said, but it would be like somebody denigrating, respectfully, my wife, and then me defending her, because that's what I felt inside. I'm like, this is God. This is my Savior. And I'm like, and I go, you need to understand, you can't use that line that he didn't claim to be God. And this is why. And I think I rattled off like 45 verses, didn't I? Something like that. It was going one after the next, but I was turning to him and I was looking at his eyes, and I know the difference of somebody in his eyes. And I'm like going, he's listening, but he's also going like, oh my. And I'll just say, well, no, I'm going to save that for the very end. I'll save the very end what I want to say about him, because I was given a letter by one of the guys on the trip to be read here, and I think it perfectly summarizes my thoughts about Israel as not. David Robertson, you know, David and Kathy, they're watching from Reno too, right there. But he wrote a letter that'll summarize my thoughts about Omer. So let's just take a little stretch break, okay? Just about 4 minutes. Stand up, just get some blood moving, and then we'll continue on the journey. Hope nobody has to leave us. Just about 3 minutes.
Let's start with that, since you said it, because it's couched in this guy.
His hat. And he says, now you got a story, you know. So that was great. That was a great moment. So, all right. So right after that, actually, we had, what's that? Okay. We had fish down there. If anybody's been there, you have, what type of fish is it? Tilapia. And they are ugly, right? So I went around afterwards, and I went up to people and asked them, remember the story when Jesus said they were lacking some taxes, the apostles, and what did he tell Peter to do? Go down to the seashore, get a fish, and do what with it? Open its mouth. I opened the mouth of my fish that I got at the table, and look. And I went around asking, did anybody else? This happen to anybody else? Did it? It's all fabricated. I'm just kidding. I had somebody give me a shekel and remind me, so I put it in. Anyway, that was just fun. Man, those fish are ugly looking. But they were good. Yeah? Anybody not like the fish? You didn't like, wow. No? Anybody comments on the Sea of Galilee or being there in Tiberias? Any other thoughts?
Just truly holy to be on that water and to know that that's what you walk on water. To be calm the storm and just everything about that area.
Crazy, isn't it? Oh, yeah, let me get him and then come down to you, son. Go ahead.
Well, and that's where we saw a replica of the fishing boat that was found a while back in the sea. I guess when the water dropped down, they found a boat that they thought had something to do with Jesus or Peter. So they found that and built the replica. And I guess one of the sons of the lady from the restaurant was building replicas, and they want to have like a fleet of the replicas of the old fishing boat. So we saw pictures. I don't know if you have pictures of that or not.
They actually had about a mile away. We just weren't able to get there. I asked them if we could get there, but I kept doing that. Can we get there? They actually have a boat from the 1st century that they have found when the waters receded, and it's really cool looking. We'll be right over to you.
Yeah, it was a couple of things. So the fact, and this was my nuance to being over there, it turned out when we were on there at the Sea of Galilee, I found out it was a freshwater lake, and I went, Sea Lake. How many of you actually knew that?
That it was freshwater?
Okay, good. I don't feel so bad. Yeah, all of a sudden they say, yeah, the Sea of Galilee, and it's a freshwater lake. And
yeah. People have often asked me, why do they call it a sea then? I go, it's just what they call it. It has a few different names. It's almost the same dimensions as Lake Elminor, by the way. Yeah. If you took the whole thing and just took the peninsula out, it's basically the same dimensions, about 5 miles wide, 13 miles long. So
yeah, and this was the personal moment when all of a sudden we were on this tour boat, and where you're expecting, it's a small, comfortable tour boat, nice and large enough to walk around on comfortably, and you're just expecting it to be, okay, this is like an Israeli cruise tour. And so that's why the moment all of a sudden, as we're just sitting and we're all getting comfortable, and they say, okay, please stand for the national anthem, and we're all looking, and we hear, dur, 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 and you hear some people, dur, 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 and it was just, and so I guess some people were enjoying it, but I was going, okay, cool. And, but it was, and then on a serious note, to be able to experience that from the vantage point of Jesus as disciples, as fishermen even, as growing up in a mountain community with fishermen, to be able to see life from that vantage point. Like, this was their life. This was where they would have fished. This is where they would have sat down over a fireplace right on the shoreline and to eat fish by hand, and just, it became that much more real. So those passages just got a whole new meaning from the inside out. Which we did. We ate from that. Yeah, we didn't have utensils over there. They wanted us to eat like the disciples did. So we ate that fish, the tilapia, with our hands.
I'm like, give me a fork. I'm not a barbarian. I am today.
Did you know that the lake is about the same size as Lake Elminor?
It is?
You just stole my thunder.
I'm sorry.
So, but it is. If you would take the lake and pull the peninsula out, it's about the same amount of shoreline. So.
Nice thought.
Same color too.
Repetition is the best what? Teacher. See? And was there somebody else? Leslie, did you want to say something or somebody? Okay, well, there's Susie.
So I liked what Jesse brought up when he talked about the national anthem on the boat, because my entire life I've thought, I'd never go there. That is so dangerous. Why would I want to do that? And then one day I was praying and I went, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I go? Because when it's your time, what better place to go from? So I put my fears aside and we went. The one thing I can honestly say over there is I never felt fearful. And when I would see these 18-year-old girls and boys with their automatic rifles, I felt such a sense of security because they are our allies and our only allies over there. And they love us, and we need to love them the way that they love us. And I think that just gives me goosebumps that there they are playing our national anthem and treating us so well. But I never once felt any fear. So in the future, can I just encourage everyone, if you can make it happen, don't not go for concern of unrest and all of those things.
All that stuff with Iraq had just happened, you know, and the Soleimani, or Salami as I call him, got killed and all that. So everybody was worried. And I'm like, there's nothing new. I mean, this is what they deal with every day. Omer said, he wrote, and I said, can you please just write a paragraph I can send out to our people, those who are nervous. He goes, kids are going to school, stores are opening. This is what we do, you know. So yeah, Kim.
I just wanted to comment on the Sea of Galilee. We are on a really cool boat, and it's windy and it's cold, and we're out there and out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. All of a sudden, the clouds parted and the sun came out. And our captain of our boat not only played the national anthem, he also played the Israeli national anthem.
Yeah.
He sang beautifully, but then he started playing some of the most beautiful Christian songs ever. And the song, How Great Is Our God? The sun came out, there were beams coming down. I have pictures of the sunbeams shining on us out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. And I just started bawling. I couldn't stop. It was just, that they say that you'll have these moments over there. You do.
You guys are doing a great job sharing. Just want you to know. So let's see. All right, going down. You got to release. There we go. I'm going next to, actually, from here, we went to Magdala. Somebody tell me about Magdala. Yeah, we're going to show you, have a good shot of the rainbow afterwards. As we were leaving there, full rainbow went over. But Magdala, the town. Newly discovered, that's right. They've been searching for exactly where it was. Newly discovered. And, go ahead.
Magdala was discovered when a hotel company from Spain was going, I don't know if they purchased the land or if they just got permission to use it, but anyway, they started digging and they found the ruins of Magdala. And Magdala was a town that processed the fish that were caught in the Sea of Galilee.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it was also the city where Mary Magdalene was from.
Processed the fish house. So what was there in abundance?
There were mikvahs, and salt, lots of salt.
Lots of salt.
Yes.
So
salt.
they would cure and process them for packaging all over everywhere. So it was actually a very wealthy community.
Right. And it was just very recently, I think 2006 is when the hotel company started excavating and found the ruins. And then 2010, they started doing the restoration, excavation. Either that, or was it 2010 and 2016?
Did you have a date on that? It was 2015, wasn't it? 2015? So
Okay.
what they did, the best part about that is, and I'll show you a couple pictures, they were excavating for 100 years, 50 yards away. And so they found the town over, and I'm just saying, can you imagine spending your whole life excavating? It's like, we found it. Next door, next neighbor. It'd be like, oh, I would die. So it also, they found a synagogue there. This is the right where they have a bunch of the processing tanks that they would find there. And underneath over there is a synagogue This is one of the oldest depictions of a menorah, which, is the Jewish candle that was in the temple. But this stone, I'm just drawing a blank, so much information going across my mind. From the Hasmonean period, 2nd century BC. Does anybody else remember anything about that? Yeah, on the other side of that, that's right. He mentioned about an Egyptian eye that's on there. So I want to show you these pictures of, so this synagogue, I mean, they uncover this synagogue. It's just down the road from the Capernaum. 1st century, here again, some place where, I mean, not only Mary of Magdala would have come from, but this synagogue. I mean, he would have entered this. It's 100% fact. He's not going to just stay right in Capernaum when this is less than a mile away. Just staggering to look at this and thinking about these different areas. So look at that. Just crazy. I mean, they excavate this area and find all of this stuff, 5-7 feet underground. Look at that. The leftover on the outside and the color in that. So there again, more of that textile stuff, for flooring. I mean, just incredible. So it was amazing how meticulous they were too. Look at that. That it's preserved to that much. And so this was the other part of the city. There's the mikvat, right? Mikvat. Different. Oh, and this is, anybody any thoughts on Magdala? Yeah, right here. And it's what? Oh, that it still holds water. Look how good it does. I mean, it's still holding water. It's just crazy after 2,000 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And correct me if I'm wrong, because he said something that was interesting to me, and it got me thinking. Omer over there, he says that Mary of Magdala, she would have helped because of her position and wealth to help bear some of the monetary needs to help Jesus and the disciples and his ministry. And I thought about that, and I thought, wow, something you don't think about in the Bible very often is going like, oh yeah, they had to pay for stuff. And they're going like, yeah. I mean, Jesus had the disciples abandon themselves as fishermen. Well, that's like telling us to quit our day jobs and follow him. And you go, great, you still got a mortgage. What do you do? Which, the interesting part was, speaking of mortgage, the Spanish investor who was going to build the hotel on there, he had told us a couple of things, because Omer was really transparent about also personal living, because of course we out there love being there's a Bible study, but we're also curious about the experience and saying, okay, this is Israel, this is the other side of the world. We want to experience what is life like for everyone over there. And he was saying some things like even about their income and saying, so primarily it's a socialist government, and that even things like, when all of a sudden we're all complaining about tax season over here, he says, out of our taxes, 60 to 70% goes back to the government of their income. And you're thinking, oh, I guess it makes mine not look so bad.
Doesn't make tax day all that bad.
Yeah, all of a sudden, that was my little God Bless America moment. Incredible. And but it really just showed you life over there, how different it is, and the fact that they live off of 30 to 40%. We give maybe that at most. And so it was, that with the investment. And then as far as the property goes, I asked him privately as we were walking through Gamla, I said, are you able, so I asked him, because he says outsiders are not able to purchase any land in Israel. That will always belong to the natives there. And we were all thinking, great. But then he said the Spanish investor built the hotel on there. And so I said to him, hey, so how did he buy that? And he says, no, he bought the materials and he built it on there. He got a permit for the land. You can buy, including residents, you can buy a building, but you can never buy the land that it's on. The land always belongs to the Israeli government. And then after 50 years, in the year of Jubilee, regardless of the land, the property, you end up giving that back.
It is, by the way, the 8th most expensive country to live in the world, Israel. 8th most expensive. Good word. Finances.
I got
yes, sir.
a quick, so talking about what Jesse's saying, about Mary Magdalene, it just struck me just talking about the wealth and the everything that was going on with her. And the story that struck with me is the fragrance she sprinkled on Jesus' feet. And then the disciples were disgusted because they said it's like 1,000 or a year's worth of wages. That's nothing for her. It was like she had that. It was like not many people had that money, but she was able to use that to bless Jesus, but also like Jesse said, to bless his ministry, to use that for his ministry, support him. Mary wasn't the only one supporting Jesus throughout the whole 3 years.
There was other people
there was a whole
that
bunch of other
supported
people,
it.
but just Mary was just one of the tip of the iceberg.
On that note, if the ushers will come, we're going to take our offering. Thank you, Tate. A couple of you looked at me like you would. No. This, by the way, is the rainbow that we saw. Just gorgeous. Full rainbow on the way out of Magdala. And so from there we head down to, Stephen, it's not working. That's all right. Down to Yardenit is the place where they have baptisms down there. It's a sea site, so that means tradition is said, because they don't know exactly where Jesus was baptized, but he was baptized in the Jordan. So you go anywhere from there down to the Dead Sea, okay? They picked there, but they've built quite a nice place too. A pretty place, beautiful. I mean, just a great bend in the Jordan River. Isn't that just gorgeous? So we walked down. We had a lot of people being baptized. There's the passage out of there. It says, in those days Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, was baptized by John in the Jordan, and when he came up out of the water, immediately he saw the heavens open and the Spirit descending upon him like a dove, and a voice came from heaven, "Thou art my beloved Son. With thee I am well pleased." Is that the most touching, intimate moment between the Father and the Son? I mean, just that, you know? I mean, he didn't need that, but for all of his ministry, everything that he would go through, you know, for the heavens to open up like that, a Spirit descend, but for him to say this is my Son. I just love that. So a lot of people being baptized there. By the way, we haven't hit the pre-Easter season of Lent, which starts in a couple Wednesdays. Omer told me you guys are traveling at the right time because there'd be 20 buses in every stop. And there were many times we were in places where there was only one bus, our bus. And, you know, and so very fortunate. I can do that. So this is the lighthouse on the Galilee. So let me tell you, so somebody tell me about a couple people about their experience being baptized in the Jordan.
I also saw heaven when I came out of the water, but it turns out it was hypermia.
Wasn't quite the Feather River, but it was cold. You're not on.
Fred and I got baptized together, and we were holding arms, and Todd was on this side of me. And just before I went under, I thought, oh, shoot, I haven't plugged my nose. So I tried to come back up.
She's coming back up. She's fighting me. I'm like, don't fight me. Don't fight me, sister. Just work with it.
He won.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't think I've ever really had to push. I'm like, I'm a. That was a great moment. I didn't know what she was doing. She's like, you want to stay up? Your nose? It's no good unless you go all the way under. Anybody else? Yeah, several couples were baptized together. How many people here were baptized that day? Look around you. So see. Anybody else want to tell their experience being there? Ray?
We also were baptized together, which was truly amazing. But helping baptize you was truly amazing.
Don't get me going, brother. Yeah. Let me tell you, this moment I was sharing with the church on Sunday is one of the top things that rock my world. To be in the river where the Father said that to the Son, and to baptize your son. I just saw it. He came walking up. I'm like, I'm not even going to choke this out, man. You know. So the other thing is I had my sister there. This was the sister that told me, it's not working, Stephen. There we go. This was a sister that told me 3 decades ago, don't you dare go off to Bible college, come back wearing a cross around your neck, talking about Jesus. She ended up becoming a believer 2 years later. Her whole stairway is like 40 crosses. Every time I walk up, look up, she goes, I know. You know, but to be there and my brother-in-law there, you know, with everybody else, there you are, going down in there. That was baptizing my brother-in-law. I mean, you know, just crazy. We've been together since we were 15. You know, it was like a fourth brother to me. So to look at him in his eye and to be baptizing him in the Jordan, just amazing. There's Jess. And then I told it on Sunday. Oh, there we are. Oops, I don't have a picture of me being baptized. But anyway, I told it on Sunday that when I was going to be baptized, all of a sudden I thought, oh man, I got to do me. I mean, you're not thinking about these things. You have time to like this, prepare the message, prepare church services. But I'm standing there and I go, okay, well, I need somebody to baptize me. And I'm like, elder. Randy's fully clothed. I'm like, dang, Dave's still got his garments on him. Oh, Dave, come down. I go, Jess, I want you to baptize me. Looking over at Ray and go, Ray, come and baptize me. But as soon as they come over, there's just different pastors handle it a different way. But I turn to people and I say, you know, do you believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And have you confessed him as your Lord and Savior? And, you know, they say, I do. And I say, based on your confession of faith, I baptize you now in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, I just realized I've never taught anybody to do that because I've always done the baptizing. So I'm standing there, and I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, well, this is awkward, isn't it?
We were looking at each other, just saying, yeah. Yeah, we were just looking at each other, Dave, Ray, myself, just go, we're supposed to say something. Who should say what? What do we say? And we look at him and finally go.
So I just said, I believe in Jesus Christ with all my heart and soul, and I will follow him all the days of my life, you know. And I just looked at him, and I'm like, baptize me, you know. And they put me back, and as I'm going under, I thought, I forgot the other part. And so I came up, and I looked up, and I go, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I'm like, my most awkward baptism I ever did. So, as I say, essentially, I baptized myself in the Jordan with their help. That's what I meant. I baptized myself. Super, super special. I got my one souvenir from Yardenit, an antique dealer. I tell you these just little quick stories along the way. So, you know, they have a big antiquities department in Israel. They have their own antiquities police, because you can imagine the forgeries that go out of Israel. They have their own police just for antiquities. So I walk up to the store location, and I want a coin. I want an old coin. And I'm looking at this Pilate coin. It was one that he minted during his time, the guy who was over, you know, presided over the Jesus' trial. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, that's what I want. I go, how do I know this isn't a forgery? So I run for Omer, right? He's going to know everything. And I go, hey, how do I know this is really? He says, trust me. I mean, the guy knows everything about archaeology. So I'm like, this is perfect. He walks up, and he looks in there, looks at the elderly lady around the counter. He goes, wow, really nice coins for imitations. And she looks like this. She goes, you insult me. And I look, I'm like, uh-oh, Omer's going to get in a brawl. And I'm like, and then she pointed to the wall, and she had this antiquities license, and whatever that was, I guess it's not easy to get. And he looked, he goes, I am so sorry. He says, everything's legit here, Todd. It's all numbered with the state. Everything is with the state. So I felt confident. So I got a little pilot coin. And I would have brought it to share, but I know some people in here, they'd be gone by the time they got back to me. I'll share it in part 2. We only have 20. I did. Don't touch it. But it is, but it's a coin from Pilate's time. That's my one. Yeah, next time. That's part 2. We only got 20 minutes. But we made it about halfway through. Save the best for last. So that's there. Then we went to bed. We woke up, and we went up to Caesarea Philippi, which is also known as Banyas. Tel Dan, by the way. We didn't get over to Tel Dan, but Tel Dan, if I were going to teach on it, is another archaeological site. They have found the oldest inscription of the House of David there from a 9th century, they call it a stele, S-T-E-L-E. But it's in the Israel Museum, and it came from Tel Dan, and I thought about it when we were up there. So Caesarea Philippi, different from Caesarea on the coast, named after Philip the Tetrarch. He actually named it after himself because they all did that. And so here's the thing I want to show you about Caesarea. So before anybody comments from the crew, very beautiful site, especially where they take you to. The city was a lot bigger than this. But these falls came up. It is one of the largest inlets to the Jordan and to the Sea of Galilee. And up here in this cave, which is called the Grotto of Pan, which was a Roman god, they had a temple up there. And this was a very affluent place. This is kind of like Caesarea Philippi, inland. This is also where where Jesus took the apostles in Matthew 16 when he said to them, they went to Caesarea Philippi, and he said to them, "Who do people say that I am?" You remember their answer? They say some people say you're Jeremiah the prophet, Isaiah the prophet, or one of the other prophets. And he said, "But who do you say that I am?" And what did Peter say? Yeah, you're the Son of the living God. And he says, Simon, he says, "Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven." And he says, "Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it." This was known traditionally as the gate of hell because up from the abyss came everything. They felt it was just down there, and that these were the gates of hell. For him to come here at the time was amazing. So the other thing I got people, they go, "Man, Caesarea Philippi seemed like it was a big place, but this was like so small." I go, "Actually, we're not even touching it." We went up to this where they had the temple area. This is what it looked like from my drone that I was flying, and so this is inside of the grotto itself. The Grotto of the Gone Pan, which, by the way, you did a great job of snapping all those things. They didn't have time to read through. But I'll give you a picture of what it looked like because I've got an overlay here coming up. Here's Omer teaching about it. I mean, fascinating stuff that this looked like. So watch this. So see this depiction? Here's what it would have looked like in the day. Is that incredible? I mean, this was a big deal. Now, and this temple area during that time, I mean, was only part of this. Caesarea Philippi was so big. I'm just trying to keep you awake for the last 15 minutes. It was this big. So the grotto is up there to the north. See all these, they're all archaeological digs. We came in from this side and parked the bus. But with my drone, this is the picture that you get. These are the different parts, archaeological digs that are going on in the area. And this is what it would have looked like back in the day. Everybody say that at once. Wow. I mean, okay, and then you can take the mic. I'll have them comment on it. So, but look at this. So see the grotto up there? That's where we were at. This is what Caesarea Philippi would have looked like when Jesus came to it. Big deal, you know. And so when people said, "Is this Caesarea Philippi?" I go, "No, it's gigantic. It's all around us. You could spend a week, as Omer said, at each one of these sites just piecing together everything that was there. Rich, please.
Just a couple of other interesting notes on this place here. If you look on the map, it's the furthest place north in Israel that we went. And it was literally a stone's throw away from Lebanon on the bus, on the road going up in there. You could see the border, the actual fence.
The very tip right there, you had Lebanon off to one side, and you had Syria off to another. Right there.
Yeah, so we kind of followed the road up through what they call the demilitarized zone. You know, so I'm following it on the map, and it's kind of interesting. But the other thing was that I thought was interesting was it's one of the headwaters for the Jordan River that come. One of those pictures that showed the water coming down was. It looked like it was just coming out of the side of the mountain, and it was one of the headwaters that fed the Jordan River.
Amazing.
I thought that was interesting.
My brother, I was the first one to become a Christian out of my home, and he became a Christian in 1982. All of a sudden, I still don't know where he's got word to it. He may be watching this from Rhode Island. But he became a Christian, and he instantly went overseas, and he spent a year on Kibbutz Hagoshrim. So I asked Omer, because when I used to talk to him back in 1982, we'd be talking on the phone, and all of a sudden I'd hear this, and I'm all like, what was that? He goes, Syria's just, there's missiles that always go above us all the time. He goes, but don't worry, brother. He goes, we got a bomb shelter. And I'm like, what? So I never knew how close he was, so I said to Omer, hey, I go, Kibbutz Hagoshrim. He goes, yeah, that's up north. And he goes, I'll point it out to you. It was all the way up north. It was all the way there. So it was very, very interesting, a place where my brother spent a year, Uncle Mark, that he was just off to the side. Anybody else have something on Caesarea Philippi? Yes, sir. And then, go ahead.
Walking over there, I wanted to say that there's two aspects. If you talk to anybody on this trip, you have the historical aspect of Israel, all the history that you get to experience. And then you have the spiritual aspect of Israel. They both are very combined, one another, the spiritual and the historical aspect of it. But for me, in particular, was this place, Caesarea Philippi. Because I believe in Mark, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor, Jesus says at this point, this is where I'm going to build my community, my church. It's going to be here in Capernaum, or at this place, Caesarea Philippi. And it astounds me just to see being at a place where Jesus actually tells his disciples, and what Pastor Todd said, that he asked his disciples, who do you think I would say I am? And they say, wow, like, there's so many answers you can give. Mm-hmm. But they say, we believe that you are indeed the Son of God. And it just strikes me. It's amazing to me to see this being at a place and then having to have the opportunity to have a community or communion there led by Pastor Todd and teaching us about building that church, building that community. And as believers, we have that community as God has called us to be. So it's amazing.
How special to do communion right up there.
It's one of the highlights for sure.
Yeah, and to be there at the gates of hell where he took on the wrath of God, for us. So, Debbie, no? Anybody else, Caesarea Philippi? Serving communion anywhere, there, especially when you think about Jesus saying he's the water of life too, on top of all of that. So,
yeah, it was one of my favorite places to be was Caesarea Philippi for that reason as well, that there was, you start to see, especially at the Grotto of Pan, which was a pagan location where they would sacrifice goats into that cave. They would throw them off into the pit, which at that time was an endless abyss. And over time and erosion has caused it to flood, and it's now, it's barely just slightly recessed from the ground surface, and it's now kind of a little bit of a watery cave. But when Omer was saying that Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church and my community. And he says, who was Jesus talking about? And some of us answered Peter. And he gave this resounding, no! It was this rock. And he was pointing to the cave. He says, upon this rock I will build my church, and upon it the gates of hell shall not prevail. And he was saying, the gates of hell. And he was showing the cave. He was saying, upon the gates of hell, upon the rocks that bar the passageway to the gates of hell, I will build my community, and the gates of hell will not prevail over that. And that was astounding, because that gave a moment of insight that really branched throughout the entire trip for me, which was the culture over there in the Middle East. They're so, like, amongst every culture, whether it be Muslim or Hebrew, there is no question about the spiritual world. There is no question about atheism, or, I mean, of course it's there, it's prevalent. I'm not saying it's not, but the fact that it's so minuscule, it's the minority. Like, everybody over there was just saying, yeah, there's the spirit world. Yeah, there's a resurrection, because the body, your consciousness isn't the body, it's the spirit. And even to see that transcended through time from Caesarea Philippi down to Jerusalem, every part of the culture being integrated and saying spiritual and physical, like we are all, it's all together, was an astounding and really familiar and comforting culture to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And that was truly mind-blowing for me, and it started personally at that point right there.
You know what he reminds me of when he's talking? Third John says that there's no greater joy that I have except to watch my children walk with the Lord. Is that not the truth? I go, so proud of these guys, who they are. So I want to get through these last two, because that will be officially halfway. I may even let you out a few minutes early. Mount of Beatitudes, we won't spend long at there because it's a C site. We did mostly A, there I go. I think you can rate it to a B, but, I don't know. Because the hilly region is off to the west of Capernaum. So it's just, you could see it from up there. As a matter of fact, took some pictures and that were shown of Capernaum too. It's not going, Stephen. One of my favorite things is him up there going, okay. So this is looking up from the hillside there, and just where they feel, that Jesus gave the Beatitudes. You all know the Beatitudes. And so it's still a pretty location. There's a Catholic church up there that was having a service at the time. And so just to be in this, region, I mean, pretty what you imagined. I mean, he was stone's throw away from Capernaum. Could have been any one of these hillsides. And still think about Matthew 5. I glanced at the passage and just thought, man, that's just awesome. So that was the anybody have any thought on the Mount of Beatitudes?
I just thought it was kind of interesting that he read the first part in Hebrew, and then I translated it in English, and we went back and forth.
He said that it's just cool how he read in Hebrew, and then he went back and forth with it. It was very good. I mean, he had his Hebrew Bible, and he was reading from it. I will bring up when we get down to En-Gedi a difference in the text that had to do with urine. It'll be PG-13, but I'll tell you about it when we get there. So I got one more stop before I hit the Dead Sea, and I'll stop at that. Scythopolis. Do you remember? Oh, I know, you're going, Scythopolis. This was the official city, the head of the Decapolis, which is of 10 cities, the 10 big cities at the time. Would have been something that Jesus passed through going to Jerusalem. Anybody going up to the feast 3 times a year would have passed through this. Also known as, now you're, Bet Shean National Park. And so in Roman times, just wanted to write this down, Bet Shean was the leading city of the Decapolis, a league of pagan nations, in the biblical account of the battle of the Israelites against the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. The bodies of King Saul and 3 of his sons were hung on the walls of Bet-shean. 1 Samuel 31 says this. When you look at this area, it is massive. I mean, again, like so many of the cities back then. This is what some of the remains look like at the time. So aren't these just, it's just amazing what is left. That's why I say when I hit California soil again, I go, what, we got nothing, virgin land. So off to the side here was a great big amphitheater. Oh, here's some more the great flooring that's there. By the way, there was a lot of Greek down there, and I was a language major, so I could read Greek. The problem with Greek back then, all the oldest manuscripts are written in capital letters, and there's no spacing in between them. So I'm used to reading in lowercase, which is what my Greek Bible is, and of course there's spaces. So whenever I'd look at these on the ground, try to just run sentences and words together, and then they're all in capitals. So it was just one of those things I'm going around going, I can't make out what it says. This was their spa back then for wealthy people. Remember that? I go, or jacuzzi, or whatever you want to call it. These were the old heaters, that would, just fascinating. So here's the Colosseum, as it were, and something very special happened in here. I want to get to it and then allow them to talk about it for a second, because I know it's their special spot, and we'll end on that. Beautiful, again, the remains to it. So just let me tell you, we had this set up before we left. Ray and Glenda were going to renew their marital vows over there. And we were trying to think what would be the best. Is there a bad spot in Israel? Right? There's not a bad one, but there's probably a best spot. So we're just sitting there, and up at the Sea of Galilee, it was kind of, we get in late, too windy, a little bit of rain, and I'm like, we'll know. So David Barton and Omer Eshel say to me, hey, how about Bet-shean in the Colosseum or the amphitheater that's there? And I'm like, can we do that? And Omer looks at me, he's all, well, we should be quick. Do I need permission? Do I need a permit? Am I going to be shot by one of these young Israeli soldiers? Honestly, I didn't know. So anyway, just one of the very special moments for all of us as they were down there and exchanged their vows. You guys want to just say something about that moment? Do you mind? Where's the mic? No?
The dress that I had couldn't get wet. The dress that I had couldn't get wet, so we couldn't get married at Sea of Galilee because it was raining. But when we were offered this spot, to know what had happened there, to know that the history was there, to know what our meaning was to do what we were doing, to renew vows after 30 years of starting a marriage that didn't have God, and to now have a marriage that has God as number one, to be able to have that as our foundation, and the foundations that they have there in Israel of history, and it to become part of us now, pretty overwhelming, and I think
whoever
for
I
it
am
happening.
Oh, sister, that was mine. Ray, you want to say anything? No, he can't. Smart man. Very, very, very special moment. And I go, this that we were down there, and I looked at him, I'm all, look at this. When can you say this? Where was your marriage renewal? Oh, the Skythopolis. Where?
David Barton came up to us afterwards, and he came up to Ray and I, and he goes, out of the thousands and thousands of people that have come to here, can you imagine what you get to say? But I want to thank a couple of people, just really quick, and I know we're on.
You can
but
do that.
Kim and Tracy got ready with me in a bathroom stall, a handicapped bathroom stall. And for these two women to be right there, and Debbie and all the women that were there just to encourage and strengthen me to get through it so appropriately. I love you ladies. And Mr. Dave, he took on the role. Thank you.
Security.
I will always cherish.
Security, even over there. You can have him hold it.
And especially you, Mr.
But,
Todd.
well, but listen, by the way, Tracy, we're walking down up there. We're going to the Coliseum. And so she comes by, and she wants everything to be perfect for you. But she comes by, and I said, hey, go get her because we're going down to the Coliseum. She goes, no, groom's not supposed to see the bride. And I'm all, okay. Come on, everybody. So that's why I'm like, what do I know? I'm only the minister. So, very special. By the way, what was this?
That was at the tax collector's tables.
Oh, okay.
Tried to bribe the elder.
Oh, see, I just didn't know where to place this, so I thought I need to ask you. Oh, so that's in Jerusalem. Okay. I'll move that for next time. So I'm going to stop there and read you something before we close. We're exactly halfway. So. Stephen, I got to do it next Thursday. I can't figure out any other time to do it. Can Adam or Jesse run it? Okay. I want to respect your time, but two, save the best for last, because from the Dead Sea to Qumran to En-Gedi to, Jerusalem. And I mean, I'm going to enter you into the debate over where the tomb actually was and all of those things, to the old city and Hezekiah's tunnel. And there's just a ton more to show. So can you do that? And hey, how many people think he should bring his wife, Shell, here for her birthday? Look, they all want you here. You know what? She loves people, so she would love. Yeah, we can have a cake for her. Okay. For those who can join us, I want to respect your time. And two, that's been a great. Can we have a hand for everybody else who's contributed to this? We're only at the Dead Sea. You're going to see some floaters out there. By the way, those who floated on the sea, did you know the water in the pool was warm, same water, but heated and filtered? I know. Can I tell you this? I found out by accident after freezing to death. And one of us said, let's go down to the pool. And I go, oh, man, I got to just go get warm. Well, as soon as I get in the pool, I'm bobbing. And I'm like, this is the same water. Why'd we go out in the Dead Sea when I could float right here? It was a beautiful moment. So I want to read this, and this came from David Robertson, great brother in the Lord that comes to this church, Snowbird. He and his wife Kathy come from Nevada, and dare I say, I think probably finest man and best lawyer that Nevada has ever had. But it's their spiritual life that says something. I have thought more about Omer throughout all this. I can't even tell you all how often I have thought about him. Prayed for him in not some arrogant way, but in a way that says, remember when Jesus said to the one gentleman, he said, you're close to the kingdom of God. You're very close. Omer's just a turn. It's like I can feel inside, his passion. And I'm like, I even look at him and go, you want to believe. I know you do. Culture and embedded. That Jewish point of life, while it's to be esteemed in some way, it can keep a person in a captive place where It was hard to believe in Jesus. He was the epitome of the person in the first century who came along to Jesus, who could not accept Jesus, who Jesus was claiming to be, because of who Jesus was claiming to be. Anyway, this sums it up well, and then I'll close with some prayer. David wrote, "The Lord primarily revealed three things to me on this Israel trip, which can be summarized in three words: freedom, forgiveness, and love. First, the Lord showed me how important it is to be free in Christ. Every day in Jerusalem, we would listen to the blaring loudspeakers throughout the city, 5 times each day calling the Muslims to pray. Over and over, we observed them dutifully pull out their prayer rugs and start bowing to Muhammad. None of them smiled or appeared happy. Rather, they all seemed driven by a need to show Muhammad their allegiance to him. There appeared to be no freedom of choice whether to worship Muhammad or Allah or not. There was only ritual submission without any sign of joy. It was such a stark contrast from our lives where we live in the freedom and the joy of Christ. Amen? That I felt like crying because of my sorrow for the 2 billion Muslims who live that life every day. Second, Omer showed us what it is like to be a Jewish Bible scholar who does not have the Lord as Savior. I truly feel bad for Omer, and I hope that the biblical truths laid out to him so dearly and diplomatically by Pastor Todd will make him understand that Jesus is in fact the Messiah. This trip made me realize that, unfortunately, the primary problem Jewish people have with accepting Christ as their Lord or Savior is because it also means that they must accept that they killed their own Messiah. I think this is difficult for them, but they need to remember the words of Jesus on the cross to forgive them because they know not what they do. So this second realization drove home for me the important truth about never underestimating the power of Jesus to forgive. Lastly, we all know that Jesus preached the most important thing is love. What I observed about Muslims and Jewish people in Israel is that they are so bound up in fighting over territory and history and rituals that they are missing out on that most important thing. As a result of this trip, I now thank the Lord every day that we worship a God of grace and mercy, that we have the freedom to worship Him or not, to make mistakes and be forgiven, and to be filled with joy simply from His love and loving Him back. As Christians, we need to revel in that truth and God's love, and remember every day that there are many billions of people in this world who are not nearly so blessed, and to pray for them. Amen? That's my prayer. Amen. If you'd like to join us for part 2, 6 p.m. next Thursday, love to have you here. Numbers 16 through 30. God bless you guys.
Another thing you guys can be praying about this evening. Thank you. Another thing you can be praying about this evening. We just got word for Larry and Sonia Elliott.
Sonia's having her baby, isn't she?
They just induced her recently over in Susanville, so she'll be.
Okay, I can pray about. Lord Jesus, another kid for the kingdom. God bless Sonia and Larry. And in that moment, which is one of the greatest celebrations we have in this life. Comfort her as much as you can, Lord. But through it all, God, may they see and feel your hand. In Jesus' name, and everybody said, Amen. God bless you guys. Hope to see you next Thursday. Lots more to tell you.